Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. This is Meraj Kidwai. Thank you so much for stopping by here. Today, I'm going to talk about a very important topic that is often missed in discussions or even in trainings or in educational training programs. Specifically, I am targeting here education sector and the organizational development in education industry for crisis management. So before if you are an educator, you are a school leader, you are a school owner, you're more than welcome on this channel with respect to this presentation, of course. And I'm sure for the educators and to the each and every entity, I would say the stakeholders, it's going to benefit you a lot to learn about crisis management, specifically in education. So how can we transform our perspective and developing a robust system that can bring better outcomes in the future as well, and also prepare us to understand the deficits, the gaps in developing skills, as well as understanding what needs to be done. Okay, so this is how we develop in education, right? Also, not just in the realm of pedagogical approaches, but in the organizational capacity as a whole. Certainly, it will address pedagogy as well. It will address other various factors also. So, what is crisis management in education? Let's understand. Also, crisis management not only prepares educators for emergencies, but also cultivates a range of skills and qualities essential for their professional development. The experience gained through crisis management contributes to a more resilient, adaptable, and collaborative educational community here, ladies and gentlemen. By having a comprehensive crisis management plan, educational institutions can respond promptly and effectively, reducing the impact of unexpected events on the learning environment and ensuring the safety and well being of their community. Now, what is crisis management basically? How can we understand? Crisis management in education involves planning, responding, and recovering from unforeseen events that pose a threat to the safety, well being, or normal operations of educational institutions. This can include natural disasters, any kind of accidents, security incidents, or public health emergencies as well. Now, let's understand what is actually crisis management in education. Now, if you can see here, I have, classified it on the basis of the importance of crisis management in education, on the basis of the components, what components are required and essential, evaluation, how we can evaluate. I can, describe them later on in the slide, and professional development as well. So I have classified it basically into four major, I would say, structure and then substructure of crisis management. So let's start with the importance. So before we understand any strategy or any kind of a plan or an organizational strategy, basically. So we must understand what is the importance or significance of it. Why we need a crisis management plan or crisis management strategy in education. We need to understand specifically, I am saying this for the educators. So if you can see here, importance is based on security, that if you have a crisis management plan in action with a particular team. So certainly you do require a crisis management team in education, in the educational institutions, and they need to understand the various different dimensions as far as the importance of this strategy or a management plan is concerned in education for those institutions. They require constant research and constant analysis, and the objective of those analysis should meet the outcome. Now, the major four which I have mentioned here is the security, that if some kind of an event happen which can threat the security of the institution or the stakeholders, the students, the staff, or as a whole, the continuity which can create any kind of a disruption in between, the reputation, the image of the educational institution as a whole, and of course compliance. Adhering to legal and regulatory standards, like ensuring compliance with safety protocols and emergency procedures, are paramount. That is why it's important to have knowledge, developing a team, and a leadership for crisis management in education. Now, the components here of crisis management, that how it's comprised, how the crisis management is made up of, right? Preparedness, response, recovery, and mitigation. How well are you prepared if any kind of an event as a threat happens in the education sector or an educational institution, in terms of policies, in terms of resource allocations, in terms of trainings, in terms of knowledge acquisition? Of course, definitely you will not have an experience if something new comes in. For example, we all know about the year 2020. So, how well are we prepared as an educational institutions with respect to our crisis management team, and the skills and the knowledge and foresight as well, in terms of addressing certain crises that we come across? Are you prepared with any kind of an emergency plans? Do you practice drills, for example, fire safety or natural disasters? So, do you practice certain drills? Is there is a plan that you would like to enhance your knowledge with, or work or brainstorm with new set of ideas or any set of new concepts, so that you can better prepare your leadership and preparing your team as well? Now let's talk about the response. To implement a plan, first of all, you need a plan. If a certain kind of a crisis can come, for that you need research and development and training and development. Now, what is the response of that? How are you well equipped with all the necessary tools, skills, knowledge, and execution of that plan? So, are you well aware about it? How can we execute it? Are you well prepared with it? That's the response of the crisis you may face. Let's take a very minute example, a security threat. Okay, for example, any kind of a security threat happens. How well are you prepared with it? It's a very minute example in education, in educational institutions, because security is paramount. So any kind of events should not happen. Okay, how well are you prepared with it? What is your communication plan? So, are you having the required communication skill in response to the crisis you are addressing? So, what is your communication plan? The team, okay, delegation, deputation, what is that? Are you prepared with it with respect to the response to that crisis you're addressing? And also thinking about the recovery actions or a recovery plan, that um, how can you be well equipped when you handle a crisis, you respond to a crisis, then you can have normal operations, support, normal operations supported, and the affected individuals as well who were, addressing those crises. So, are you well prepared with a team who can address the mental health issues as well, psychological issues as well during those times? So, certain recovery plans should also be in place, depending upon the crisis you are, handling. And what is your mitigation analysis? Okay, that you can prevent measures to reduce the impact and likelihood of future crisis. For example, implementing early warning systems or upgrading infrastructure, or training and development, researching and development. So what are your mitigation strategies? How can you be, you know, you can be taking preventive measures so that you can address certain issues or be well prepared of certain kind of issues in the future. Now, out of all, the most important, I would say, is here the evaluation of crisis. This is the most important aspect in crisis management. You know, effectiveness, communication, training, adaptations. How well you are able to evaluate any kind of a crisis you may or you might be facing, right? The execution plan, implementation plan. Is it effective? What you have planned? What can be the options, or uh, how well can you achieve the desired outcomes you're thinking of, right? So, how effective it is. So, risk assessment should also be there. So, when you're evaluating it, it should also assess it should also assess the risk which may be there in implementing or execution of that plan. Okay, and are you prepared for calculated risks during those implementations of those plans? And what about the communication? How well are you equipped with your communication practices and skills? Whom to rely on, whom to delegate responsibilities to? The other person on whom you're relying, for example, is well prepared with this plan of action, updated, upgraded with the knowledge, and is able to understand, empathize in the situation, and can also balance themselves in the crisis management and effectively manage it for the organization or a team as a whole. Training, how well are you equipped with training of the team members of the organization as a whole, understanding crisis, understanding how well prepared they are emotionally and also financially to address certain crises. Okay, the lessons that you have learned from the past incidents, what are your adaptations to those, and what necessary adjustments can be done so it can be implemented with the desired outcome, right? So these things should be kept in mind while you are, strategizing about the crisis management, and evaluating and risk assessment should also be done during crisis management in education for educational institutions. Now, let's move on to professional development. How can we understand it? The competency, resilience, enhancement, and expertise. So, what do you understand here by professional development when I'm talking about crisis management in education? You are prepared for any kind of certain negative events that can impact the educational institutions or the quality of education services, stakeholders. So are you enough competent? Your team members are enough competent, or are they prepared enough to handle certain crises? Do they have coping mechanisms? Are they resilient enough? Okay, what strategies can be incorporated so that there is a continuous enhancement in their um, professional expertise, their skills, their knowledge, implementation, and also which enables them to balance themselves. For example, in certain moments of crisis, emotional intelligence is the most important skill to develop, right? Communication skill, leadership, adaptation. So, time management, um, efficiently utilizing resources or resource allocation. So, how well are they competent enough to understand, and which also develops their professional profile, handling certain situations and bringing the desired outcome in certain situations as well. Now, expertise is another very important parameter here in professional development with respect to crisis management, that your expertise or your knowledge, or I would say, if you can provide guidance or insights to your team in the times of crisis management. So, how well equipped are you, and understanding and keep on researching and reading and developing yourself, that you can be an asset for the organization at that point of a time, so that you can also contribute in times of crisis. So how much are you putting efforts in your professional development, in your training, on an individual level or with respect to the organization? How much organization is investing in developing expertise of the team members during certain hours of crisis? So that all, cumulatively gives you a strategy to develop a strategy for crisis management, addressing certain crises in the times of need, and be well prepared to handle them diligently. So let's understand what I'm trying to say with this example of a case study that I've chosen here, that a mid-sized institution meets with a crisis of a virus outbreak to a global pandemic, okay, where the thousands of students are there, the faculty members are there. They have to continue the services also, and they have to manage their team also. They have to manage their mental health also. And the switch of the physical infrastructure to more robust digital infrastructure. So how well are they prepared in terms of, the skills and competencies they're looking for to manage that crisis, as well as the digital understanding and privacy understanding, as well of the students and the organization also, and satisfying the stakeholders, and on at the same time uh, providing support and gaining support of the stakeholders, also meeting the financial constraints that the institution may face. So let's understand with this case study. Now, when we do the SWOT analysis of the institution based on the crisis they faced, we find this result. And we found that the community support and engagement, for example, the support of the students was there, and the faculty members quickly adapted to the situation where they found a crisis, that the learning should from the physical classroom should go or move on to the online learning. But the weakness here is that the members were not trained enough, there were not enough technological investments, or because of financial constraints, the student support services were also reduced. The opportunities were found that there were opportunities in the field for strategic technological partnerships or finding partnerships and getting trained onto it, or may find donor engagement as well from the alumni of those educational institutions finding their support, right? And the threats we came across, because there were a financial crisis for the institutions and digital divide among students and faculty. Many, as I just said, that many of the members of the faculty were not trained enough, even not equipped enough because of limited technological investment. This is just a real world example to make you understand about crisis management in education, and so that we won't face certain situations or events in the future, or if we face, we are well prepared with a plan of action to implement so that any kind of damages should not be there. So, what were the problems? What the problem during this case study? We found out that there were financial strain and resource allocation, the impact on learning quality because of fewer investments in technology, or the faculty were not trained enough to create certain kind of learning materials, and adaptation for the students, psychological adaptation as well, emotional adaptation as well, they were not prepared enough, as well as the crisis in terms of the global pandemic, what they were handling at home, or the faculty members were handling at home or in their personal sphere of life. So managing the stress level, or I would say the lack of resilience to an extent, but adaptation as well during certain moments of crisis, right? And the sustainability for long term. So these were the problems that we found out during the SWOT analysis of this case study. So strategic decision making was required right here, so that it can be dealt with precision, with accuracy, and with desired outcome. So during a crisis management plan, it's extremely important that we must learn from a crisis and understand what were the challenges, in what domains the challenges were. For example, I've presented here about the curriculum adaptation, student engagement, technology integration, financial management, staff well-being, regulatory compliance, parental involvement. So certain parameters should be dealt so that they can be improved from the challenging phase in terms of the strategies they may require, and the analysis and understanding where the drawbacks were, what were the shortcomings and gaps and deficits were, and what had exposed the system, right? So what had exposed the system, and how well, on a collaborative level as an organization as a whole, we can learn from a crisis and developing strategies for the future in terms of any kind of a crisis may face. How well are you professionally developed, what are the regulatory compliance policies in place, how well the curriculum is adapted, the learning outcome is there or not, which impacts the learning quality or the reputation of the institution as a whole, how well the students are engaged in learning. So these were the challenges faced earlier. So, by implementing certain strategies, we can create a recommendation plan also by those who are the field experts, and they can bring about changes in the deficits or the gaps with their expertise, with their knowledge, and recommend strategies so that the failures should not be repeated. So we learn from our failures somewhere. So it's important to understand your success and your failures both, and it's more important to understand your failures more so that it won't be repeated again. That's how you understand the crisis, okay? And you develop a strategy so that you can address the issues in the future, right? So how can you improve the communication, importance of curriculum training, how important it is to access technology and integration of technology, understanding more about technology, artificial intelligence in education, virtual engagement, compliance reviews, or policy making or policy changes, and online engagement and development of the learners, of the stakeholders as a whole. So, how well can you strategize keeping certain points in mind and implementing the strategies and executing it for any kind of a future crisis, or keep on researching and developing and finding ways to address with a team, equipping the team with necessary skills and knowledge, and also practicing in simulated scenarios, or in certain scenarios, so that you are well prepared both emotionally, psychologically, financially, as well as educationally. Thank you so very much for watching this video till the end. If you have any further questions, you would like me to introduce any further new topics for your understanding, please reach out to me. You can write an email or reach out to my website to know more about me, who am I, what I do, and you can get connected with me as well. Thank you very much for watching this till the end. I hope and I wish that together in a collaborative fashion, we can bring new creative and innovative strategies to improve the quality of learning and teaching and training and development together. Have a great day, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy.